In this video, we'll look at three operators that apply to strings. In fact, they apply to any sequence type. So Python 3 has 5 sequence types built in. We've got the string type, list, tuple, range, bytes and byte array, which I'm treating sort of as one sequence type. So with that said, what is a sequence? Well, a sequence is defined as an ordered set of items. For example, the string hello world contains 11 items and each item is a character. But a list is also a sequence type. For example, here's a Python list of things you might need when buying a computer. You can see that each item is in double quotes separated by a comma, and it's all then in left and right square brackets. So that list contains 5 items, each of which is a string. Now we'll be looking at lists in a later section of this course. So that last example was a list of strings. In other words, it's a sequence where each item is also a sequence. Make sure you fully understand the videos on indexing, because indexing is very important when dealing with sequences. Because a sequence is ordered, we can use indexes to access individual items in the sequence. For example, if we have this example here with computer parts defining a list, then computer parts left and right square brackets 1 will be the string monitor, which is the second entry in the list. But that's also a sequence, and we can index into that sequence as well by using square brackets 1 to get access to monitor, and then square brackets 0 would be the letter M in lowercase, which is the first part of that sequence. So we've been looking at strings in this section, but everything that you can do with the str sequence type can also be done with the other sequence types. Well, everything with one exception. Not all sequence types can be concatenated or multiplied. Range is an example of a sequence that can't be concatenated. Right, so back to the code. I'm going to create a new Python file called sequence operators. So we've already seen the plus operator used with strings to concatenate them. So let's just type in a few strings. So I'm going to start with typing string 1 equals he's with a single quote there, but the string in double quotes. String 2 equals probably in double quotes with a space after the y. String 3 equals pining with a space at the end of the letter G. String 4 is equal to for the space and double quote there, and then string 5 equals double quotes forwards. And I'm going to print on line 7 string 1 plus string 2 plus string 3, whoops, I put a space there, string 3 plus string 4 plus string 5. But the plus isn't necessary when concatenating string literals though in Python. So we could also do print, this is on line 9, double quotes he's, space, then another space outside the double quotes, probably, space there, another closing off double quote, another set of double quotes but after a space there to separate it, pining, space, whoops, space outside of the double quote for the space, space and forwards. Not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Alright. So that'll print the same thing, and if we run this we should see both outputting the identical output. And obviously I made a typo. Run it again. And we've got the identical output in both cases. So I mentioned this second way because it's how Python works, not because we think you'd ever want to do something like that. I'm sure you'd agree that the first example on line 7 is a bit easy to read. Now with that said, strings can also be multiplied, which is a bit weird if you're coming from another programming language. I can come down on line 11, I can type print, parentheses, hello in double quotes with a space before the closing double quote. And I'm going to put multiplied by 5. Now you can't actually perform arithmetic multiplication on strings, of course. Instead what happens is the star or multiplication operator repeats the sequence a certain number of times, 5 in this case. So if we run the code, you can see we've got the word hello printed or outputted 5 times. Now lists and tuples can also be multiplied, as we'll see when we look at those sequence types later in the course. You can't concatenate or multiply a range though, and that's not a problem because you probably wouldn't want to do that anyway. Now once again, operator precedence applies. So if I type some other code here, if I type print parentheses double quotes hello space before the closing double quote multiplied by 5 plus 4. So this example wouldn't print hello 9 times. Again, we're talking about operator precedence there. So we run this program, we'll see that we'll get an error. And the reason we're getting error is because hello in double quotes multiplied by 5 evaluates to a string, and then there's an attempt to then add the numeric number 4 to it, and it fails for that reason. So what we can do is I'm going to show you 2 things here, and they actually do different things. So firstly, I'm going to change line 13 to put 5 plus 4 in parentheses, but then also I can type on line 14 print parentheses double quotes hello space again and multiplied by 5 plus and 4 in double quotes. Now because of the parentheses, line 13 evaluates 5 plus 4 to get 9, so it should then repeat the string 9 times. Line 14 should repeat the string 5 times and then append the string 4 to it. So let's just run that and confirm that's how it works. You can see that works as I mentioned. Right, so there's also an operator to check if one string is a substring of another. To do that, we actually check if one thing is in another. So let's start by typing some code. Line 16, I'm going to type today equals Friday, and that's in double quotes because it's a string. Okay, next I'm going to type print parentheses double quotes day in today. I can put a comment here for each, which should be true. Print FRI in today, and obviously the first part's in double quotes as you can see there. That should also be true. Third example, print parentheses, and we'll put THUR in today, which should obviously be false. And lastly, we do a print parentheses parrot double quotes in double quotes fjord. That should also be false. I'll just clean up these a little bit. So here the in operator evaluates to true if the first thing exists in the second and false otherwise. We'll be using that a lot when we look at conditions and for loops, and you'll get plenty of practice using it and see loads of real examples. So I'm not going to discuss it any further now, but we'll just run that to confirm we're getting the results that we think we should. You can see we get true, true, false, false, which goes in line with the code from line 17 to 20 and getting the expected values. All right, so let's end the video here, and in the next one, we're going to look at the various ways we can format strings and some of the string methods that allow us to manipulate them. See you in the next video.